welcome back to part 4 of the series for the love of cheap guitars, covering guitars I bought for under $300. All right, today we're going to explore one specific brand of cheap guitars. This is a brand with retail prices that are usually under $300 on most models. I bought this copy of a Gibson Les Paul as a gift for my son back when he was in middle school, and I honestly couldn't believe the quality control and the sound. Today we actually own 3 guitars from this one brand. The company is Jay Turser, and I can't wait to share them with you. So the history of Jay Turser guitars is foggy and shrouded in mystery. I mean, today it's 2023. Jay Turser is an Illinois-based company. They're owned by a Canadian corporation called Jam Industries. They're distributed by David and Hanser. So all the guitars are made in China. The range is limited to acoustics for beginners and electrics and basses that are basically like Fender Strat, Telecaster, and precision bass copies. And that's pretty much it these days. But if we back up a few years, they've been around since 1988, so 35 years. Turser has actually offered a very broad range of guitars, especially electrics. And that includes copies of Fenders, mostly Stratocasters and Telecasters, Gibsons, including Les Pauls, SGs, 335s, and others, and then Rickenbackers, Gretches, Mosrites, and more, right? Now, I once heard a legend that Jay Turser was a British luthier who was determined to create a line of high quality, very affordable guitars. So he moved to Asia and started manufacturing using the inexpensive labor, but using excellent woods and strict quality control. So I really like that myth, but I think it's probably BS because I recently read an article that said Jay Turser is some marketing person's idea of an American sounding name to be placed on an Asian product. And that's probably more accurate. But Jay Turser did gain some notoriety along the way. In 2004, they won the Guitar Player magazine Reader's Choice Award for Ultimate Value. It was specifically for the JT-200 line, which is Les Paul copies like this one. And then in 2008, they started using Graphtec new bone nuts and saddles, which you generally find in much higher end guitars. And then in 2011, they won a Guitar Player Editor's Pick for the JT-LT-RW, which is a rosewood Telecaster copy. Looks a lot like George Harrison's Tele from the Let It Be era Beatles. Now, if you surf the web, you're going to find plenty of Turser haters who say they're junk, they're a waste of time, they have a bad feel, they have no mojo. But then to offset that, I found a pretty talented guitarist named Jack Kritzer, and he seems to have bought just about every model Jay Turser ever made. He's got a video up on YouTube, and it shows a bunch of Turser's standard and exotic models, and they're right alongside his expensive brand name guitars, right? Some of his Tursers have these elaborate fingerboard inlays of serpents and dragons. I mean, they're very impressive. So, this is the first Turser I bought, right? This is a very beefy JT-220D for deluxe. It's obviously in a cherry burst. And this is the guitar I gave to my son Eli when he was in middle school. Now, a couple of years later, I famously knocked it over and cracked the neck. Only time I have ever done that. You can see, oh, that's painful. I got it professionally repaired, and even though that scar is still painfully visible, this guitar plays like a champ. So last year I decided to give it some love on a video about how to avoid guitar acquisition syndrome. Guitar acquisition syndrome is also known as GAS. So I played this guitar on all the parts of an instrumental cover of Donovan's Sunshine Superman. Check it out. was so impressed by Eli's Turser Les Paul that a couple of years later, I saw a Turser JT-220D GT gold top. It was on sale for half off at a Guitar Center, and I took it for a spin, loved it, had to snap it up. Cost me $140. So here it is. All right, a guy named Tar Heel 72 on the Marshall forum bought this same model, same year, and he said this: Turser guitars are all made in China, just around the corner from the Epiphone factory that Gibson likes to talk about. In fact, if you do some internet searching, you'll discover that the same factory that makes Turser also exports to both Gibson and Epiphone in Tennessee. I got a 220 gold top, and the fit and finish is outstanding. The body's one piece, it's chambered, as are many Gibson LP models, thus reducing the weight. The neck is one piece as well. According to Turser customer service, the GT has a mahogany body and neck. The electronics are as good as any China import. Pups are hot but not microphonic. Mine holds tune fine, no fret buzz anywhere. I totally agree with that, right? And he also said, I had a tech open it up and we looked at everything prior to my purchase, and he said it looked better than most of the imports he saw. The wires and soldering are all neat and strong. The guitar was set up from the factory with a low action and was intonated. I think it plays as well as an Epiphone, and I have one of those for comparison. I like its lighter weight, and the gold finish is beautiful. Binding is good, frets are tight and smooth. To each his own, but for $140, it's a great LP copy, IMHO. 100% agree, Tar Heel. I love my Turser JT-220 Gold Top, and through a vintage Fender amp and reverb, sounds like this. So I can't tell you how often I choose this guitar when I want a tone that's thick but still spanky. You know, it's like the perfect cross between a Fender single coil and a Gibson humbucker. So I actually layered 3 tracks of this same guitar on my upcoming cover of Last Train to Clarksville. Check this out.
Oh, no, no, no. Take the last train to Clarksville. Now I must hang up the phone. I can't hear you in this noisy railroad station. All alone, I'm feeling low. Oh, no, no, no. Oh, no, no, no. And I don't know if I'm ever coming home. Oh, no. Take the last train to Clarksville.
To my ear, that sure doesn't sound like a $140 guitar. I'd love to know what you think in the comments, please. All right, finally, my third Turser, a very generous birthday gift from my son Eli and daughter Avalon last year. It is a JT-RES. And they confirmed that they got this for under $300, so it qualifies for this cheap guitar series. So this is an unusual thin line guitar, right? It has a poplar body, maple neck, rosewood fingerboard. I think it's loosely based on a National Res Electric, which costs about 10 times more. So this has an acoustic resonator cone, as you can see, pretty obviously. Plus it's got a mini humbucker and internal piezo, which is super tinny, but that's not a problem because it has a blend knob, which lets me choose exactly how much of each pickup I want. So recently I recorded basic tracks for my band Cosmic Spin's cover version of Broken Arrow by Robbie Robertson. And you know, I assumed I was just going to use one track of this guitar and then layer other guitars into the mix like I always do. But instead, I just turned the blend knob and I dialed in a different tone and recorded another pass. And then I did it again. And I ended up keeping all 3 tracks of this guitar because the sound was so unusual and really beautiful to my ear. So see what you think. That doesn't sound like any other guitar I own. I even think if a session guitarist heard those tracks, they'd have a hard time guessing the brand and model of the guitars. And I don't think they'd ever guess a cheap brand like Turser. So I've actually played this JT-RES live, and it was a total eye and ear catcher for the audience. I had multiple people say, what is that cool looking guitar? And, telling me that thing looks like $1 million. And I'm thinking the whole time, yeah, it's under 300. All right, that's probably more than you ever wanted to know about Jay Turser guitars. And I should mention that aside from new guitars online, you can still get great deals on used Tursers through sources like reverb.com. So obviously, I love all three of my Tursers. What do you think? I'd love if you'd leave a comment, tell me what you think of the sounds you've heard today. Also, tell everyone if you know of other cheap brands you've discovered that routinely punch above their weight. Before you go, like, subscribe, and leave a comment of any kind. Pay a visit to guitardiscoveries.com. That's where you're going to find links to more of my music, all my videos. I got lots of tips and tricks and secrets and suggestions, everything for guitar, vocals, and home recording. Or just watch this.